for most of us, our biggest investment is our house. And the way we finance that tends to be with a mortgage. And yet, most of us only do a couple mortgages our whole life. So we don't have a lot of knowledge about mortgages. So today we're going to talk about mortgages. But first, look at this beautiful stream here behind me. Super lucky to be where I'm at today. So let's take a walk and talk about mortgages. So, the first thing I want to talk about is 15-year versus 30-year mortgages. At least in the U.S., the tradition is 30-year mortgages. But I think it makes a lot of sense to look into a 15-year mortgage. Obviously, you're going to pay it off a lot more quickly. Usually, the interest rate tends to be lower on a 15-year mortgage than a 30-year mortgage because the lender's not locking up their money for as long. And the payment tends to not be double. It tends to be quite a bit less than double. So I think there's a lot to be said for a 15-year mortgage. I'm not going to go through the numbers. There's all kinds of mortgage calculators online that you can look online and find out for yourself, what your specific situation is. But if I had a choice between a 15-year mortgage or a 30-year mortgage and a nicer car, which is what the trade-off is for a lot of us, right? A car, you do a 30-year mortgage and with the money you save versus a 15-year, you can do a car payment on a nice car. But boy, wouldn't it be nice to be done with your mortgage in 15 years. So, I was probably 40 before I did a 15-year mortgage. And in hindsight, I wish I had done it earlier. Again, you just do the best you can, but I want to put it on your radar screen that 15-year mortgage is not double the payment of a 30-year. In fact, it's quite a bit less than that. So look up the numbers online. If it works for you, definitely look into that. I should mention, I'm not a mortgage broker. I do not have expertise in mortgages. This is just my personal experience, and I'm sharing this with you as an educational point. I want to just share some thoughts that I've learned over the years, and if you're interested, then you do your further research or hire a fee-only financial advisor or an accountant to help you walk through it. You want to understand how mortgage brokers get paid, and there tends to be a lot of fees, and mortgage brokers can make a lot of money per loan, so you just want to know that there's potentially biases with a mortgage broker. I'd much rather pay a fee-only financial advisor a set fee to do that analysis for me and know I'm getting unbiased advice. So with that disclaimer out of the way, let's keep going. I think one of the things we all have to be careful of with mortgages is a floating rate, a variable rate mortgage versus a fixed rate. And let me kind of share my thoughts with you on that. So right now, interest rates have just gone up quite a bit. Most of us think that in a couple years, interest rates are going to be lower. I think that, but I don't know, right? So the advantage of a variable rate mortgage is if interest rates go down, then your mortgage is going to go down. The interest on your mortgage is going to go down. But I think it's as much about playing defense as it is offense. And the challenge with a variable rate mortgage is, I don't know, interest rates could be higher 3 years from now. And if you can afford your mortgage rate now, I think there's a lot to be said for that, for knowing it's not going to change. You can predict what your mortgage payment is going to have to be. You don't have to worry about getting surprised and maybe not being able to afford that payment anymore. And people say, well, I can always refinance and get a fixed rate mortgage. Same thing with stretching on the mortgage. If you're not in a comfort zone where you know you can handle the mortgage payment, boy, the thought of the concept, the strategy of, well, you can always refinance. Well, maybe you can, maybe you can't, right? I don't think you necessarily want to be able to count on that. I also know people that are like, well, if the mortgage payment becomes too high, I can just sell my house and I can rent for a few years until mortgage rates come down. But, the challenge is under that type of scenario, what happens if the value of your house goes down? Are you going to want to sell it at a loss? So variable versus fixed, if you can afford the fixed rate mortgage where it's at now, I think there's a lot to be said for locking that in so you know you can afford the payments. So that's variable rate versus fixed rate. My thoughts, again, do some more research, maybe hire a fee-only financial advisor to tell you more based on your specific situation. And then the next thing I want to talk about is refinancing, right? Interest rates, as I record this, mortgage rates had been higher. They drop down a little bit, and people might be thinking about refinancing. Hopefully rates will be lower in a couple years. You might be thinking about refinancing. And the challenge with refinancing is mortgage brokers will say, oh, this is $0 out of pocket, so why wouldn't you do this? It's going to save you money a month. But oftentimes what they do is they put the expenses for that refinance into the mortgage. They roll that into the mortgage payment. And yes, your payment is less, but you're still paying that cost. So let's say interest rates drop, and they continue to drop like in 2008, 2009, I believe all the way maybe to 2012, kept falling. And I think I refinanced 5 or 6 times during that period of time. So my interest rate went from 6.5% to 2.5%. And we could be in a situation like that again in the future. But how do you do that where you're not paying $5,000 to $10,000 every time you refinance? Even if they roll that into your mortgage, that's still a cost that you're paying. So one of the things that I like to do is a true zero cost refinance. And the way you get that is you agree to pay a slightly higher interest rate. And if you were an investor and you were buying mortgages from a bank, would you rather have a mortgage that's paying, I have to watch my stepping here. Would you rather have a mortgage that's paying a higher rate or a lower rate? Of course, you'd rather have a higher rate. So that's worth more. But let's say you have 2 people that are both borrowing $500,000. And let's say the current mortgage rate is 6%. And one person locks in a rate of 6%. The other person says, I'm willing to pay 6 1/8%. I mean, that was typically what I did my refinances at, is 1/8% higher than what the going rate was. And because investors were willing to pay a premium for that mortgage, that created something of value. And I could get, it's called the yield spread premium. But I could take that yield spread premium and I could use it to pay for the closing costs. So I really was not adding any cost to my loan. It was truly a zero cost because I was letting the value I was creating, my interest rate was still going down, but not as much as it otherwise would have. So anyways, that's the strategy. I think it's super powerful. It's hard, candidly, it's hard to get a mortgage broker that's willing to do that for you. You're probably going to have to call around and just tell the mortgage broker, hey, here's what I'm interested in doing. Can you help me with that? And like I said, it's going to take some time to find somebody. I think I talked to a dozen mortgage brokers. I ended up, I'm not going to share the name here. And please don't share names in the comments of people that you know that might do it. It just be too easy for there to be a scam. Find one on your own. I think that's the best way to ensure that it's not a scam. And right, you're giving a lot of very personal information. What do they call it? Personally identifiable information to your mortgage broker. So you want to make sure that you trust this person. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, do me a favor, hit the like button. We are seeing nice growth in this channel, and I have you to thank for that. So take a second, please, hit the like button. Leave me a comment in the comment section. I do read the comments. Let me know what you think of this beautiful scenery here. This is, as I record this, this is the first day of spring. So this is what the first day of spring looks like in the northern parts of the country and the mountainous parts of the country. We've had a really big snow year out here in the western United States. And until next time, I'm Azul, encouraging you to take full advantage of the youth of your senior years. Remember, you're only young once. Use this time wisely.